So how do you grow as a filmmaker? How do you take your craft and put it up to the next level and just keep evolving it the entire time? That's a really tough question, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have been asking yourself this many times. And what I've done is going onto YouTube, searching like, okay, how do I become better at filmmaking? How do I become better at lighting? How do I become a better cinematographer? All of these things. What you're most likely presented with is just a bunch of tips on camera settings and different lighting techniques. And that will only take you so far. Now, one of the hardest things that I've encountered as a filmmaker was learning how to tell a story using visual moving images. Now, you can learn all you want about different techniques, settings, lighting, all of this, but it will not teach you how to actually tell a story. I've got this method that I haven't seen anywhere else on like YouTube or Reddit or any other forums, and I haven't really seen anybody else use it. So I decided that I wanted to share it with you guys today, and hopefully we can just all learn together and keep on growing as filmmakers. So what is this awesome method, you may ask? And let me try to break it down for you. But before we do that, I just wanted to put it out there that this is purely for practicing, okay? You do not want to use this method when actually making a film, because that will just end bad for everyone involved. This method is actually a 4-step method, and the first one is the recognition step. The second one is the analyzing step. The third one is the practicing step, and the fourth and final step is the adapting step. So the first step is to recognize who you are as a filmmaker and what role you have. Because obviously there are so many roles in filmmaking. You got the directors, you got the DPs, you got the editors, you got the VFX artists, you got the colorist, and the list goes on and on. And I know people trying to learn like 7 or 8 different roles at the same time. And that is not going to happen in a million years. So what you want to do is recognize what you do, and you want to limit it to 1 or 2 roles. So once you recognize who you are as a filmmaker, what you want to do next is find somebody within that field that just really inspires you, like really puts out some great work that you can learn a lot from. And then you want to select one project from that person and then take that on into the next step. So on to the second step, which is the analyzing step. Now what you want to do is take the project you found in step 1 and really tear it apart and analyze it thoroughly. Like really dissect the project into all these categories and figure out why the project makes you feel in such a way. Like when you look at a shot, what makes that shot feel in such a way? And then you just want to write it down on like a piece of paper or something. I use a notebook. I find those really helpful because then it's just not words on a computer. I actually write it down, and just helps me remember things easier. So obviously, depending on what sort of role you have, you want to look at the film a bit differently, but I suggest just tearing it all down, looking at every single element and how they play together to form a feeling, an emotion that goes out to the viewer. And that way you will just get a completely new understanding of how films are put together. And I'm talking like literally going frame by frame through the entire movie, just looking at what they have done and figuring out why. And if you understand that, well, then you're ready for the next step. On to the third step, which is the practicing step, and this is where things get interesting, because now you're going to recreate the film or the sequence that you basically dissected in the previous step. Now, why would you do this, and how does it help you? When you dissect the film like you did in the previous step, you obviously gain a whole bunch of knowledge. When you take this knowledge and you put it into action on an actual shoot, this is where the magic happens, because now you're testing out techniques you didn't even know existed before, and you're trying different things, and there are constantly problems showing up left and right that you are having to solve right there and then, which is exactly how things actually work on a film shoot. So like I said in the beginning of the video, this is purely for practicing purposes, and now you can tell why, because all you're doing is basically just tearing down somebody else's work and then building it back up again. But this is giving you such an edge when it comes to actually being on your own film set, trying to solve problems and coming up with creative decisions, which takes us perfectly over into the next step. Now on to the final and the most important step of them all, which is the adapting process. Up until this point, all you have done is basically just rip off and copy another guy's or woman's work. And now you start accumulating experience, skills, problem solving, and maybe even new ideas from getting fresh creative input. And this is how you grow as a filmmaker, and this is the information you want to carry over into your own filmmaking process. So that is all there is to it, and I really hope you guys will actually try it out. If you do, make sure to let me know how you thought it was and if you learned something, and if you actually managed to pull things out of it and put it into your own filmmaking. And it doesn't really matter at the end of the day if you're inspired by Sam Calder, if you're inspired by like Salomon Lichthelm or Peter Jackson. They're all filmmakers, and this technique will work all across the board regardless of what kind of films you want to make. So that is all I had to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and if you did, make sure to leave a like and a comment, and I'll see you next time.